Tonight on Let It Rip, taking down TikTok. It's one step closer to reality. One local business owner says it's the wrong move after the app saved his business from bankruptcy. But opponents worry we're handing our personal data right to a communist state. The digital divide hitting the Let It Rip stage. And Biden and Trump hanging out together? Yeah, these pics aren't real. Despite the phony photos, one cyber risk expert says if you don't get on board with artificial intelligence, you'll be left behind in the dust. But the technology behind the pics can get in the way of criminal trials, leading jurors to ask what's real and what's fake.
Guilty of involuntary manslaughter.
James Crumbley found guilty on all 4 charges. Oxford families say this shouldn't be the last line of justice, and attorney Ben Johnson is ready to fight. They want the school held responsible. All right, it's time now to Let It Rip. We have a lot to get to, and we are joined now by attorney Ben Johnson, who represents several of the Oxford victims' families. Also, Macomb County Prosecutor Pete Lucido and former Detroit Federation of Teachers President Keith Johnson. Fox 2 anchor and attorney Charlie Langton, who covered the whole trial, is with us as well. Charlie, you covered not only the shooter's trial, the mother's trial, the father's trial. We want to get to you and your perspective in a moment, but we're going to begin with Ben tonight because, listen, no one is celebrating. The Schilling family, the St. Juliana family, the Baldwin family, and the Muir family continue to mourn. What does today's verdict, though, do for these families?
It brings them some semblance of justice and accountability. But like you said, Roop, it's no one's high-fiving, no one's celebrating, but they appreciate the jury's very difficult job to spend all day doing what they did and brought home what we think the overwhelming evidence supports, and that is that Mr. Crumbley was absolutely guilty of what he was charged with, and now they're ready for rounds 4 and 5 on the civil liability of Oxford Community Schools, the individuals.
And there's governmental immunity questions that come into play here. There's appeals that I know you were making. I want to get to that in a moment, but let's go right to the prosecutor who's sitting next to you. Your colleague out in the next county over with a big win. And again, this is not a win that anyone is celebrating because we have lives that have been lost here. But I got to ask you the question. This is a precedent-setting case. Would you have done it the way Karen McDonald did it?
I don't know, and I'll tell you why. Every case stands alone. As lawyers, and there's a lot on this panel, they stand alone, and the thoughts and prayers are with them first, Roop, but also I pray that this is not going to open another chapter when the appeals all start, that the family has to go through this again, because we know in the life of a criminal, when they have been convicted, the only thing they have to look forward to is to make the next appeal, because there is no closure for them as there is the Oxford families.
But in this case, though, Pete, with all due respect, all of the families who spoke today said that this is basically another, and I'm putting words in their mouth, this is the fight of their life, that they plan to continue as long as it takes to get justice.
And that's
so
fine.
Did this prosecutor get it right in the way she prosecuted this case?
And that's fine, but I want to look at this. I don't want to rip a Band-Aid off, have a scab, and then see it be peeled off and start bleeding again. In the justice system, when you're sitting with a family as Prosecutor McDonald or Prosecutor Lucido, you are feeling all of their emotions and tensions in that family, and you want to deliver the best result. They did in this case, and as Vin said, it gives them a sense of starting to have closure, but there'll never be closure.
But there are 3 legs that one parent mentioned that we've seen hit with this particular adjudication of these 3 different ones. There is a 4th leg that all of the parents spoke about, and that is the school. This is, again, a passion project and one that they believe is the right thing to do. And so, Keith, I bring you into the fold here knowing very well how much your heart is heavy for all of those victims. But I ask you from a procedural point of view, as someone who worked for the school system for so long, this governmental immunity protects schools from further lawsuits that right now Ven is appealing. Is it sustainable for us to have a model that says schools can be sued for the negligence of some of their employees?
Well, I think, first of all, you have to make the distinction that whether you're talking about qualified immunity or sovereign immunity, it is not absolute.
Break that down for our viewers so they understand the difference.
Well, with it means it's not absolute. When you're talking about sovereign immunity, that really refers to government entities at all levels of government, from the federal down to local.
Schools, police stations, all of it.
Right. But it's not absolute. In fact, there have been a number of cases, I was just reading about one in Cincinnati, in which the immunity contention by the school district was ruled out of order because there are certain exceptions to immunity when it comes to whether you're talking about sovereign or qualified immunity. If it's a situation where the civil rights of a student has been violated, then immunity is not applicable. If it's a situation where there's a demonstration of gross negligence on the part of the school district, then it's not applicable. And as horrible as this case was in Oxford, and again, I certainly feel as an educator, as a parent, as a law-abiding citizen, I feel for the parents of those children that were lost and those who were injured. But the question I think that has to be raised is, was there anything in the law that would absolutely compel Oxford High School or the Oxford School District to take any additional action against
Sir, let's take that question right to one of our attorneys. Charlie, I'll get you in the fold here. What is the answer to that question? Was there anything that was violated when it comes to the law, in particular, explicitly, when it comes to the school's responsibility?
Well, let's make it real simple. The answer is no. But here's the thing.
That's where Charlie's wrong yet again.
The answer is no. Now, the current law, Ben's going to challenge it, but he's going to have to go to the legislature, not the courts.
Right.
Because we don't have it.
No.
But let me ask you this. Suppose a counselor doesn't use ordinary care to check a kid's backpack who he might think have a gun in it. Should he be sued? That's the issue.
Of course he should be sued.
Ask the school district. What do you think?
That's not what he said. Charlie, that's not what he said.
That's what he said.
And no.
Then go ahead, and then we'll get to Keith.
No.
Hold on,
What
Charlie.
he just
Let's
said
get
was
to Ben and then
that
Keith.
it's left up to the individual facts of the situation.
Those are the facts.
Really?
Yes.
How would I know? Because I wasn't allowed to develop the facts. Mr. Lucido, I wasn't even
Let's
allowed
assume.
to...
Hypothetical.
No, I'm not assuming anything. I'm going to tell you what it is. We have not been allowed to have our day in court. This is what I love about our system, jury system. Had the entire jury system today, and everyone in the public probably would have convicted the Crumbleys the day after this happened. They had their day in court today, and they had their trial in front of a jury. I haven't had that opportunity on behalf of my clients. Just thrown out of court. And you know why? Because you want to make judgment calls by judges. I want to make judgment calls by juries. And that's what the issue is.
Keith and Ben, hold on. Let's get Keith, the educator, in here. Keith, go ahead.
I'm not in total disagreement with Attorney Johnson, but here's what we have to consider. Had it been me as a counselor or a school official in that situation, knowing what was going on with this kid, would I have checked his bag? Yes, I would.
Hold on, I got a question.
But the law does not mandate that I check his bag.
Gotcha.
I think therein lies the difference.
We have mandatory reporters by statute. Mandatory reporters.
Child Protection Act.
And when you look at those mandatory reporters, when I was in the legislature, they wanted to know, is it going to be sports coaches? And then the answer is yes. Is it going to be bus drivers? The answer is yes. There was a whole litany of people, because doctors are reporters. They are mandatory reporters.
Wait, we got a whole bunch of them. Let me ask.
Let him finish.
No.
That's what the reality is. And Yvette is saying, in Oxford, I didn't get a chance to at least explore whether or not there was a duty bound of somebody in the school to make a report that he got foreclosed on before he even had a chance to speak.
Before anyone gets in here, Charlie, 6 words. A question. Here's 6 words. I want you to do it. Here goes. No, I'm going to ask the question. No, Charlie, hold on. Is the government above the law? Is the government above the law?
No, they're not.
Then why then can't they face the music and have a day in court? If they're not above the law, shouldn't they face the law? Why not?
That's a little. That's still a bit too simplistic here.
No, it's not. Why is it simplistic? They should be.
Listen, I've said before there should be some kind of a hybrid, because here's the deal on governmental immunity. If you want to allow schools to be sued, okay, Because you can't do it. You got thrown out of court. You can't do it now. So if schools get caught, they're going to have insurance will go way up there, right?
Oh,
Who's going to pay for that?
Seriously?
You're taking money from the classroom to educate kids to buy insurance policies that ultimately will pay people like Ben Johnson.
Before you answer
yes
that,
or
Keith,
no? Are you
Keith,
in
is
favor
that
of
true? I want Keith to answer that. He's the educator.
Well,
Is that
okay,
true?
would you favor that?
Is that true that we would have to pay more per pupil in order to take care of the cost of insurance in a case like that?
That's the argument.
I would put it this way.
Horrible argument.
If you were to utilize funds for that purpose, invariably it's going to kick back to the classroom.
There you go.
You're going to have the loss of some revenue for the education of kids.
What remedy?
What do you do with that?
What remedy does the families have in Oxford if they got their day in court just to convict? That may not be the remedy that they wanted. Ultimately, they wanted to hold somebody that was inside the school that may have had the legal duty to at least, wait, Charlie, to at least go and look at whether or not there was something that was done or could have been done.
But we know for a fact,
therein lies the problem. There was no legal duty. There was no legal duty that compelled them to in this case, to
we know
search
they didn't
this young man's
we know
book bag.
Guidepost, which by the way is the company that was who paid for this? Oxford Schools.
Only
and usually this doesn't happen. Usually it doesn't happen. The people you hire to look at an independent look at your thing, they actually found them to be responsible for not following so many of the rules. They may not have been the law, but the rules. So if my responsibility as a rule is to take care of kids in my school, should not have I be found liable for not doing that job?
Rube, if this happened in a private school, there would be none of this discussion. It would be straight negligence and approximate cause. And I know we're getting in the weeds. Here, listen to me on this. Today, Mark Keast, thank you, Mark, the prosecutor, sent me the jury instructions that was read to this jury. And you know this better than I do, Pete, because you do criminal. I don't. It's approximate cause, even for beyond a reasonable doubt.
I know.
Every other civil case, Charlie, you know this.
I know.
Approximate cause. A, meaning one of many or whatever. In the only area of law in Michigan, criminal, civil, that says the proximate cause is if you sue a government official.
Right.
That's absolutely unconstitutional.
So your remedy is with the legislature.
No, Charlie, you keep saying that.
It is.
No, it's not. It's with the Michigan Supreme Court. The legislature had no authority to put that and make that the law.
Do you think others? There are several other states that have the government immunity issue is not an issue where you can actually sue the schools.
The legislature.
So talk about that.
The legislature in many of our states has passed legislation that puts some restrictions or some confinements on the issue of both government, whether you're talking about governmental immunity or what most is applicable with school districts would be the qualified immunity, not the sovereign immunity. So then we know
that other states are you're able to do this because of what he's talking about. Why not try to change it here in Michigan? Don't you think that's an institutional shift?
Absolutely, it should be. And irrespective of Charlie Langton, okay, you can do it through the Supreme Court. Is one of the ways to go. Yep. And the and both. By the way, you guys are going to hear, by the way, from the 4 families that you all have covered for the last 2.5 years, and that's what they're going to tell you. It's now time to go to the legislature. But guess who?
This is a case.
We are out of time.
Guess who this law protects?
This is a case of first impression.
Every one of those legislatures, every one of the judges, and every state.
Asking the government.
No, stop that, Charlie.
Pete Lucido, thank you. Charlie, we'll be back on the other side of the break. Keith, thank you for taking this on with us here today. Ben, always good to see you, even on this somber day where we remember, as we say, the Schilling family, the St. Juliana family, the Baldwin family, and the Muir family. Our thoughts are with Oxford here tonight. Lawmakers are a step closer to banning TikTok on national security grounds, but one business owner we're speaking with says it shouldn't happen because the app saved him from bankruptcy. The digital divide as Let It Rip rolls on. Back Back now, let it rip from a TikTok takedown attempt to AI forcing us to question what's real and what's not. It's a busy week when it comes to technology and our government and what they want to do with your phone, the apps that are on there. Here's how to debate the fallout. Founder of Chuck Nibbles, Brad Coughlin. Also, Embroker Chief Insurance Officer Dave Derajotis. He's a cyber risk expert as well. And attorney Vince Coella. Macomb County Prosecutor Pete Lucido is back with us as well. And of course, Charlie Langton, always with us here on Let It Rip. Great to see you all. All right, so here's the deal. Whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, your head's going to swivel on a thing because you don't remember who said what when. At one point, former President Trump says ban TikTok. Now he's all for it. He says it's fine. Biden says I'll sign this into law to ban it, but I'm still going to use it to campaign in the meantime. And we have with us a very great panel. Dave Derajotis, I want to begin with you. We're going to talk about AI with you in a moment here too, because it's gone just crazy, even in the last 3 months since I talked to you. What is the deal with TikTok? Is it a danger to our democracy and to our personal freedoms and to our data?
I don't think it's any more danger than the rest of the social media companies and other tech companies that are out there that we access every single day. Now, are there concerns? Sure, just like there are with other companies. Can we take a surgical approach? I think that's already been done. I think if you look at what's been done at the federal level, banning devices there, Congress ban, armed forces ban. But when that extends to the broader American public, not allowing them to make the choices in terms of the content that they want to access, the type of things that they're putting out, content creators, businesses, it has massive ripple effects, and I think it's overreach.
Vince Coella, you look at this whole situation. This is not, though, with all due respect, David, like Meta, which is based in Menlo, California, right here in America, under American laws. This is a Chinese company called ByteDance, and the U.S. government is saying, hey, you got a choice here. Either you're going to sell this thing, Mr. CEO of TikTok, or we're going to ban it here in the U.S. You got 5 months to do it. Is that a good idea?
That sounds to me like a trade embargo or a sanction that you'd put on another country. The legislation is trying to accomplish that, and they're going to raise these free speech issues and see whether or not it's constitutional. I don't think that ByteDance has any shot in you-know-what to get this thrown out because it's unconstitutional. They can't raise free speech issues as a Chinese company that is apparently governed by the Chinese government. So
isn't it kind of crazy to do that, though? I mean, to say, hey, you're taking away Americans' freedoms. This is a Chinese executive who's making money off of our data, just like the other companies are. We're joined now, of course, by the guy who's in charge of Chuck Nibbles. And I want to say, you get to do a quick little 8-second pitch about what your company is.
Absolutely. So it's a third-generation family recipe that was originally created by my grandma. It's a combination of pretzels, peanuts, walnuts, corn checks, all bound together with a light coating to form a delicate but addicting
Look at this
combination of salty and sweet.
Brad, time's up on the ad, but I do want to tell you this is fascinating. So TikTok, for me, when I think about it, I think about my nieces who are doing dances with my sister-in-law in the kitchen and having a good time, or funny tricks with animals or pets and music. This, you say, saved your business from bankruptcy.
Absolutely. I mean, it's been a wild 5 years since we've been starting to do this with the global pandemic, supply chain crisis, recession, everything else that's been going on. TikTok, with the new launch of their TikTok shop, has allowed us access to a customer base that 175 million people are using actively every month.
Does it matter to you where the data may end up being bought and what may be done with it?
I think, again, it really is no different than any other of the social media apps, Google, any of these other platforms that are obviously serving us ads.
It's a communist state that may want our data right before election time. Does that bother you?
Not really, no.
It bothers me a little bit, Roop, and it's because if the government's involved with industry, business, it's not really a free market. It's a government-controlled market. And what they do in their country may not be the same thing we do in our country. So for all practical purposes, if I knew what the Chinese were harvesting from TikTok and what it was being used for, I may have a little bit more leeway to say, it sounds okay, but why are they using it in China for teaching their kids, educating their kids, not the stuff that goes on here in the United States? There is a big distinction. So I want everybody to realize, why is there a separation from what TikTok is doing abroad as opposed to the U.S.?
Because they're taking our data and perhaps doing something that could be a little bit dubious with it,
we would need to know, and I think that that's what Congress is trying to get to, until you tell us what the stated purpose is of using this data, we may be in harm's way, but you may go ahead and go to China and find out, Charlie.
Mr. Prosecutor, wait a minute, Mr. Prosecutor, do you really think the country of China cares if I eat chunk nibbles? They don't.
I don't
they
know.
Could care less.
But data is a pricey. It's a pricey commodity. David, you've talked about this. I know where you stand on this, but I also know where you stand on data being a currency. Data is not just people dancing in their kitchen and advertising their products. It means something. Talk about that for a moment.
It does. Biometric information, location information. We're talking about very sensitive data. Name, location, the political affiliation that you may have. Let's not forget about what happened with Facebook back in the day. 2016, in Cambridge Analytica, 87 million people had their data scraped, psychological profiles put together, and used in very targeted political campaigns.
Vince, how quickly do we forget that and then suddenly switch our hat and say, oh, TikTok is just fun and games, when we know what just happened here the last time we had an election?
Well, I mean, you can't do that. And you know what? If the government's going to say that this is a national security issue, then tell us what it is. It can't just be, well, their algorithm aligns with this, so it's possible to do that. That will not be enough to move the needle. Free speech, right? I mean, it's going to be an issue with this. But national security will trump that if they can show that there's actually a risk of it happening.
Okay, so Pete Lucido, we got to switch the topic here and talk about artificial intelligence.
Yes.
You're a politician. You're also a prosecutor. You've run for office. What if someone used your picture and did something like this? This is kind of funny when we first look at it at first glance, but here's some images of AI and what it's done, what it's put together. There are actual pictures showing as though President Biden is hanging out with Trump, and they're like hanging out, having a great time. There are pictures that are showing all kinds of things. Look at this, as if the two of them are good buddies. If someone was to do that with you and, I don't know, pick your least favorite Democrat. And
don't say that. I get along both sides of the aisle and in the middle.
My whole thing is AI. Has it gone too far?
I've been teaching a scams course. In fact, I did the presentation all over Macomb County. The AI portion is really disturbing because they're using it to go ahead and not only just create and get data from individuals, they go into your bank accounts now. They go into, because you think you're speaking to your own son, they can go ahead and copy the voice and the dialogue, and as a result, Dad is saying, well, what do you need, son? Dad, I'm running a little late, Dad, and they send him money. So I'm worried about the gold that the golden years have for these individuals, or just the regular middle.
But there's a byproduct of that as well. It's called the liar's dividend. And what that says is that if you have the ability to change images, to create images, change what we actually see, the reality, then what you can do when you go to court is just deny it. Plausible deniability. So what are you doing? You're creating an integrity issue with the court system, because anyone can go into court and say, oh, there's an image, a surveillance tape of a person robbing a bank, and the person says, that wasn't me, and then next thing you know, there's this bias, this deep fake bias that's going on in their brain. And then next thing you know, they've met the burden of proof in terms of beyond a reasonable doubt, right, Pete? Because it's plausible that this can happen.
That's what concerns me. They modifying the data, and now it goes into a courtroom.
But what happens in terms of regulation? We say things like the government shouldn't get involved. I say, heck, are you kidding me? They need to get involved with things like this because we depend on them. David, how concerned are you about images being used legally or politically in a way that they weren't supposed to?
It's absolutely a concern, but I think it's on the part of the consumer to make sure that they understand the threats. I know exactly what you're talking about with cloning voices and being able to get a hold of bank accounts and make your way in. That's a serious issue, but here's the thing. This is a massive tidal wave that's coming at us. There is no turning back on artificial intelligence. Elon Musk wanted a pause last year, and no one was willing to do it because no one wanted to fall behind. No one was willing to pump the brakes because you don't want to lose ground to any other country.
But at what cost?
Well, that's the thing. Listen, technology is neither good nor bad. It depends on how the individuals that are using the technology, what their motives are, either good or bad. That's true of artificial intelligence or any other technology that we utilize.
As a business person, your concerns?
I mean, I think it's pretty scary, not alone as only as a business owner, but as a parent of young children. And you know what Pete was talking about people cloning voices, talking about kidnapping, ransom, all that type of stuff is very alarming.
Parents have to be vigilant and on guard to watch what their children are doing. Don't tell me that you're giving them a cell phone and you're not locking down the apps that they're on, or more importantly, what they're watching and who they're watching it with.
Charlie, how tough is this going to be in court to prove that I wasn't at a place that you claim that I was because there's a picture of it?
I think it is going to be an issue, a proof issue. But, you know, the prosecutors got the burden of proof. I mean, they're going to have to prove that this image of someone robbing the bank is the real image and not some AI. I do think it's going to be a problem. That's why, though, we have courts. But to ban the whole thing, but do we need government regulation? I mean, maybe we do. But I think, again, if you can prove that it's it's fake, then.
But Charlie, the
okay.
cost of
but
doing
it's hard,
that
though. It's hard.
it's prohibitive. So what are you going to do? You're going to go down the deep fake, you know, bunny hole, rabbit hole every single time, and then you're going to be calling in experts. You're going to be spending more money on cases. It's not going to be efficient for the court system or the litigants to have to go through all this.
But we can't ban it.
We're going to take a quick break, come back on the other side of the break, and get some final thoughts with our panel. Stay with us. All right, final thoughts. Let's start with Vince.
Yeah, I mean, artificial intelligence is here to stay, so we have to figure out a way to regulate it.
David?
The genie's out of the bottle. Make sure that you up-level your skills and understand how the technology can benefit you.
Prosecutor?
Everybody wants to go ahead and use it, but let's not abuse it. More importantly, let's reel it in and find a way that we can make it work for everyone.
We're saying you got to do it somehow, right? Maybe with some kind of a guardrail, a rule, put it under a department?
Yeah, I think there's just bigger issues that people could be focused on instead of TikTok right now.
All right, well, I hear you. I know TikTok's important to you. Yeah, Charlie?
Our whole weekend show is on TikTok, so don't ban it right now.
Oh, you better be, Charlie. You need content.
I like TikTok. Don't do that. And AI, be careful.
Well, I can tell you one thing for sure. To tell whether something is fake or not, we know for a fact that the first picture we showed you on the show of Trump and Biden laughing with each other, everyone knows is false because they're laughing at each other, not with each other. That was a very clear thing there. But I want to thank our panel for joining us here. Thank you so much for joining us, each and every one of you. And that does it for this edition of Let It Rip.